as we go into this, it's going to be important, and this is why the clarity came, because of context. The context of this letter to the Romans is to deal with primarily this rift between the Jew and the Gentile, and understanding the differences between how they came to the understanding of covenant, how they came to the understanding of relationship with their Creator and Messiah, and how that all plays out, this kind of disconnect between these two groups of people. Verse 8, the word is near you, in your mouth and in your heart. That is the word of belief, which we are proclaiming. So Paul's saying, I'm proclaiming that if you observe with belief correctly, fully, subjecting yourself to the righteousness of Elohim, which is taught to you in the instructions of Torah, that you end up with the goal of being transformed into the image of Yeshua. Amen and amen. Does that make sense now? Not saved in the future, delivered out of all this junk. You still have a path to run. Paul is the guy who tells you that you're running a race and that you need to run it to the finish line. Paul never hints or alludes to you being saved and there's nothing more to do. He's the one who tells you to walk out your salvation with fear and trembling. He's the one that tells you that there's a path that has to, if you endure, you'll receive the crown of life. He is talking about a long process until you stop breathing. The key word there is they have to be sent. What happens at the end of Matthew? Yeshua sends the ones that he trained. So they were trained, anointed, appointed, and sent. Christianity's done an awful job in convincing everybody that that mandate is on all of you. The Great Commission it is. No. Okay, it's not the Great Commission. Now, it's a Great Commission, yes, because it was great what they had to go do. It's not the Great Commission, meaning it obligates everybody to do it. The good news is covenant. If you subject yourselves to the righteousness of Yahweh, what is another word for that? Covenant. Isn't that what covenant is all about? That you would subject yourselves to the righteousness of Yahweh. That's what you covenant. You say, everything you say, I will do. Subjectively, I will submit myself to that. Not subjectively meaning I'm going to look at it and decide, I'm going to subject myself. I'm going to submit myself. I've also now tried to provoke those disobedient, back-talking people to jealousy by those who are not a nation, and also with an unwise nation. I'm going to go get other people, but the point of the other people isn't to replace, it's to provoke and motivate through jealousy a wake-up call. So let's be clear, there's no replacing Israel here. We're going to get to chapter 11 now, and we're going to see how that all comes together with the tree. The idea was to be grafted together and be one body called Israel. Here, as always, Yeshua does it, Paul does it. Paul's doing it all throughout Romans. There's always the establishing of his point by Tanakh quotes, using Old Testament quotes. In other words, he shows us the foundational nature of the Tanakh, of the Old Testament. For those who are taught for the years as Christians, hey, that stuff was done away with. You don't need the stuff. We're in the New Testament now, blah, blah, blah. And people try to filter the old through the new. No, he's filtering what he's trying to say through the old. He's using the old to make his point, to make his argument, to make his case. What is the issue Paul's talking about in verse 6? He's talking about how Yahweh selected who he selected, not about what the people he selected did. He's saying they did nothing to earn being picked. He didn't say they did nothing after being picked. As a matter of fact, everything in Romans is about, as a matter of fact, the beginning of what we just read today is about that they dropped the ball after being picked because they were trying to find their own righteousness instead of subjecting themselves to his. He said, look, I stretch out my hands to a disobedient and back-talking people. What does back-talking look like, by the way? Anybody have a child that knows what it looks like? The child, generally speaking, is trying to get in your face because they think they know better. Isn't that what back-talking essentially is? You tell them A, and they argue with you because they'd rather do B, and they have a reason why they think B is right and all this other stuff. That's what back-talking is. Israel is seeking, but they haven't obtained. Why? Because they're seeking it the wrong way. They're approaching it the wrong way. That's what he was talking about earlier in chapter 10. He says, look, I pray for my brothers, I pray for Israel, but they've had the information, they've known what righteousness is, but yet they've tried to twist it to their own way of doing it. We all can fall into that.